I made over $20,000 in royalties from just one single book that I published just a couple of months ago. It wasn't anything special. In fact, that book is actually under four-star average reviews. So even though it does have reviews, it's actually just like a 3.8 star average, I think. And it's still making a lot of money. Now, why is that? Well, the reason is actually very simple. I've helped so many people do this. I've helped small clients do this, big clients. I've helped publishers go from $100 a month to $1,000 a month. So their first 4-figure month. And I've even helped clients go from 4 figures to 5 figures every single month. And yes, that's with one book. I've helped clients reach $10,000 in revenue on KDP every single month with just one book. Now, why is that? How are my clients able to achieve those results? Well, it's actually much more simple than you think. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to show you 3 essential skills that all of these clients had in common that gave them the ability to actually reach those goals. I'm going to tell you those 3 essential skills. But before I dive into those 3 skills, this is extremely important to understand. Now, when you're trying to run a KDP business, or I'm guessing any business from what I've seen, there's so many moving parts. These are all the moving parts. Now, when it comes to Amazon KDP, you have your research. That's one part. You have your cover. You have your keywords. That's another part. You have your SEO. Make sure your SEO is good. You need to make sure your description is good. What else? You have your interior formatting. You have your Amazon ads. You have your title, subtitle. You have your A+ content. You have review gathering. You have so many things that you need to do, so many skills that you need to acquire, so many different moving elements that come with each book. Now, who is in charge of managing all of this? Well, there's only one person in charge of saying yes to everything, and that's you. This is the most important person when it comes to your Amazon KDP business. This is the person that runs everything. You are the person that runs everything. So you are essentially the most important person. Now, here's the thing. If you don't know what you're doing, then all of this is going to collapse. Fair enough? Fair enough. If you do know what you're doing, great. Then you can slowly start to amplify your books and slowly scale. Now, don't worry. I'm going to show you exactly the 3 essential skills and how to implement the things in your book so you can scale your book to $10,000 a month. But the thing is, even though these parts, if you put them all correctly, you will have a super high quality book. This is a high quality book. Now, a high quality book is not that hard to make if you know what you're doing. However, it's not really about you making one high quality book. It's about you understanding what makes a high quality book and then making it. It's about you becoming the person that can make a high quality book. It's about you becoming a publisher that can publish high quality books. So if you're publishing 5 basically shit books and then you got lucky on your 6th one and it starts making sales and your 6th one is quality, great. That's not the best thing in the world, because yeah, you have one book that's making you money, but you don't even know why that book is making you money. And this is actually something that I experienced. So with one of my first books that was successful, I did so many failed books, and then eventually, obviously, I hit a bullseye. Even if you don't know how to play darts, and I give you this, if I tell you just throw the dart 100 times, eventually you hit the middle. Doesn't mean you're an amazing dartboard player, but eventually you're going to hit the middle. Now, let's say you publish 5 books and your 6th book actually starts making you money. Great, this is a high quality book. Well, if you're not a decent publisher and you don't have these skills, you don't even know why this book is selling. You just basically randomly stumbled across this book. You don't know why it's selling. Now, I'm going to show you 3 essential skills that if you have, you'll be able to implement this with your current books and with new books that you're launching, and you'll be able to quickly scale these books up to $10,000 a month in revenue. And this is just with one book. Now, the thing is, if you understand the entire process, then all you have to do is just repeat this formula. Because it's not really about making one book that makes you a lot of money. It's about making multiple books that make you a lot of money. In fact, it's about making one book that makes you a lot of money and then doing a second one that's going to make you a lot of money. And then you make a third one and it's going to make you a lot of money. And now all your money is just stacking up on top of each other. Now, it's very important to understand this right here. Some of you are on $0 a month in profit. That's okay. We've all been there. That's where we all started. And then you want to get to, let's say 12,000. I like 12,000. It's a nice number. $12,000 a month. Doesn't matter if it's revenue or profit. Let's just say 12,000 just for the sake of of maths. Now, right here is you making around 2K. So this right here is everyone who is on $2,000 in royalty and under. For you to get from 0 to 2,000, it takes a lot more effort. You have to do a lot of things. So because if you don't have the budget to pay for people, then obviously you have to put your own time. If you have the budget, then you're still paying for people. But again, you're brand new to this, so you don't quite know what you're doing. So it's going to take a lot of effort for you to get from 0 to 2. Now, obviously, to get from 2 to 12 is so much easier because you have all the skills and you've done this before and you already have a successful book and then you're growing. And you also have money to hire. You have a lot more opportunities and it's much easier to get to 12,000. Now, again, both of these numbers can be achieved with just one book, as long as you know what you're doing. Now, what got you from 0 to 2 is not going to get you from 2 to 12. And even if you went from 2 to 3, what got you here is not going to get you there. It's two different things. One of the most fascinating things I discovered recently is actually how to make cookies. Now, bear in mind, I don't know anything about cooking. I don't know anything about cooking. I don't know anything about baking. Don't ask me for food. I don't know how to make food. Nothing with cooking, nothing like that. I don't know how to bake, don't know how to cook. But when it comes to cookies, I know how simple it is. When it comes to making cookies or baking cookies, you have to get one bowl, put a bunch of ingredients in this bowl. I want to pretend to do a whisk here. There you go. This is supposed to be a whisk. So you just put a bunch of things in this bowl and then you whisk it. Now, once you whisk it, you put it in the oven. It's going to be an oven. And then once you put it in the oven, then great. Now you have a cookie. Does that seem hard? No, not really. So if you want to make cookies, you just get a bowl, mix a bunch of ingredients, put it in the oven, and then now you have a cookie. Now, before you start shouting at me, all the cooking experts out there, I know it's a little bit more complicated than this. But essentially, if you boil it down to its absolute core, you just get a bowl, put a bunch of ingredients together, obviously put them on a baking tray or whatever, do all the little tiny things, put them in the oven, and you have cookies, right? Right. Only takes around 15, 20 minutes in the oven, I think. Again, don't know anything about cooking. However, what happens when you try to make something a little bit more difficult? Now, one of the things I discovered, one second, let me just get my coffee. Yeah, so one thing I discovered was how to make macarons. Now, I don't know if you guys ever made macarons, but fuck me, is it hard. I've never made macarons. I just watched a video on how it's made. And there's zero chance I'm making a macaron. Now, I've never actually tried a macaron, so next time I see them in store, I'm definitely buying one, just out of respect for the person that made them. Now, when it comes to macaron, the process is actually a little bit more difficult. Now, again, you do take a bowl, and then you whisk a bunch of things inside. Great. It's basically the same thing now. But second step, you actually need a blender. Pretend that this is a blender, okay? I'm not the best at drawing, don't judge my drawings, but pretend this is a blender. Then you need a blender, and in there you need to put like powdered sugar and a bunch of dry things, and you need to blend them all together. And then you have to take these and mix them together. So whatever's in the blender and whatever's in here, I think it's like egg whites, you put them together, again in the bowl. But here's the important thing. You need to get the consistency of the ingredients inside this bowl absolutely perfect. If you fuck this step up, you fuck up the entire recipe. You can't make macarons if you mess up this step. If the consistency of this is not good, you're messing up your macarons. Now, how do you know when the consistency is good? Well, you want to get peaks, so stiff peaks. I don't know if you know what peaks are, but when you're whisking and you pull it up, it's going to come with it, almost like a chewing gum when you pull the chewing gum apart. If you have stiff peaks, so little pointy things like that, great, it's perfect. If you don't have stiff peaks, it's not ready. So we have this ready, we did it perfectly. Now we put it on a baking tray, and then we need to make sure the shape of the circles that we put on here is perfect. Once we put it on the baking tray, then we can put it inside the oven. And now we need to make sure it's not too hot and it's not too cold. So again, the oven needs to be absolutely perfect. Now I know what you're thinking, what does all this have to do with KDP? What does macarons and cookies have to do with KDP? Don't worry, I want to get there. But once you put it in the oven, you need to make sure that it's correct, that it's not too hot and not too cold. The exact temperature, and you need to put it in for the exact amount of time that it needs to actually rise up. Now, while that's happening, you need to get a separate bowl and actually make the filling of the macaron. So this is something completely different. Again, you put a bunch of ingredients in here, make the filling, and then finally, you take the macarons that you made from the oven, and then you take your filling, and then you put it inside, and then you're good to go. You made a macaron. Now, which one of these sounds easier? Making cookies or making macarons? Obviously, making cookies. Now, for you to get from $0 a month to at least $2,000 or even $3,000 a month, all you have to do is just make cookies. It's not really that hard. You just have to make cookies. However, when you want to get to $12,000, when you want to start making macarons, When it gets a little bit more complicated, there's a little bit of more skills that you need. So even if you're really, really good at making cookies, doesn't mean you're good at making macarons, right? And it's the same thing. You need a different process. You need a different approach in order to create macarons than you do to create cookies. Just like you need a different approach to go from 0 to 2 and then to go to 12. So this is a different approach. This is a different approach. Now, while everyone is teaching you how to make cookies so you can achieve this, I'm here showing you how to make macarons so you can achieve this. So let's get into the video. Let's get into the 3 essential skills that you need to have in order to make the best macarons in the world. Well, obviously not macarons, but really, really good books. Good books that are good enough to make at least $12,000 revenue per month. Now, the first skill is absolutely essential, and you probably heard me talk about it a gazillion times, and that's design. But why is design so important? Well, when it comes to design, here's why it's so important. When you go on Amazon and someone searches your word, you and your competitors are going to show up on, let's say, page 1. If you did all your research correctly and your SEO is good and you're showing up and you have good conversion rates and everything we talked about, then you're going to be shown on page 1. Great. When it comes to page 1, do you think the customer is only clicking on your book, or are they clicking on your competitors' books as well? They're probably clicking on your competitors' books. So let's just say from page 1, out of the 30 results that are shown on page 1, I actually don't know exactly how many search results are on page 1, but let's just say it's 30. Out of those 30, they might click on anywhere from 4 to 6, maybe sometimes 8 different books based on their book covers. So out of the 30 that are shown on page 1, you need to make sure that you are one of the 4 or 8 or 6 of the books that they clicked. And how do you do that? You need to have a quality book cover. But you can't really have a quality book cover without understanding design. It's kind of like wanting to be a mechanic, but you don't understand anything about how cars work. Or not wanting to be a mechanic, but going outside to fix your car, but you don't even know how the engine works, or you don't know anything about cars. Doesn't make any sense, right? So I'm not going to try and make a book cover when I don't understand anything about design. That's probably a very dumb thing to do, right? Just like I'm not going to go and pretend to be a bartender if I've never made a cocktail in my life. Again, that's a kind of dumb thing to do. So one of the things I saw with the publishers that came to me and were able to scale very quickly is that they didn't really have good design skills. Sure, some of them thought they did. Some of them thought they had good design skills. Hey, my book cover is pretty good. I think my book cover is pretty good. No problem. Some of them thought that. However, once they went through my program and learned the 12 design principles and actually learned how to do effective book cover design, they were able to double their sales. Why? Because of how effective the design principles are. All the design principles are based on psychological facts. Now, let me show you what I mean. If you walk in the street and then you see a very beautiful girl, there she is, this one right here. Very attractive girl, super attractive girl. The first thing you think of is, oh, she's very attractive, she must be nice. Now, as long as she doesn't look angry, and let's say she's wearing a nice, colorful yellow dress, and then she's like smiling, and she's pretty, you're gonna automatically assume, hey, she seems nice. Why is this? This is because of the halo effect. Now, if you don't know what the halo effect is, this basically says, if something looks good, we automatically assume that it is good. Now, this strongly applies to your book covers. So, if all of these book covers are being shown on their screen, and then someone clicks on this one and this one, the reason they clicked on it is because the book cover looked good or resonated with them. So, they associate or they think that because the book cover looks good, the book must also be good. Because if it looks good from the outside, it's probably going to be good on the inside. If it's a professional book cover, then it's probably a professional book. I mean, that's why we judge books by their cover. Their cover is what's going to tell us what it looks like inside. If I give you a book cover that looks terrible and a book cover that looks good, you will always pick the good one, because if the book cover is terrible, then whatever's inside is probably terrible, right? Exactly. So we want a really good book cover. Now, how do we design a really effective book cover? Well, I wish I could tell you all 12 of my design principles, but that's going to take hours. There's so much information. And if you're able to put all those puzzle pieces together, then you'll have a very, very effective book cover. However, what I can tell you is you need to be conscious of why a book cover is good and why it's not. So if you have a book cover, okay, and you think your book cover is good, then you need to consciously be able to list out why you think it's good. If I give you your book cover and I'm like, hey, why is your book cover so good? What do you like about it? If you say, yeah, I like the colors and yeah, I just like the way it looks. That's terrible. That's nothing. There's no real thing there. There's no design elements or design principles. It's just your opinion. Your opinion doesn't really matter. The principles, the design principles is what matters. Here's why. Because here's how design works. Okay, so your brain has two parts. You have a subconscious brain and a conscious brain. Now, which one do you think is bigger? Your subconscious or your conscious? Your subconscious. Your subconscious determines everything. Whatever you put in your subconscious will manifest in real life. Your subconscious runs the entire game. Now, your conscious is very, very small. You barely even realize what's happening. That's why sometimes if you're driving in the street and then you start daydreaming, guess what? You're not crashing. Your body's still driving that car. You're still in the lanes. You're probably still indicating and changing lanes without you even consciously realizing it. Why? Because your subconscious is 100 times more powerful than your conscious. Now, don't quote me on that. I don't know if it's 100 times more powerful, but it just sounds better when I say 100. Now, when someone looks at your book cover, let me just take this away as well. When someone looks at your book cover, here's what's going to happen. This is the transfer of information. Okay, this right here is your conscious brain. And then this right here is your subconscious brain. When someone looks at your book cover, what happens is that information goes through your subconscious brain first. And by the time that information even reaches your conscious brain, your subconscious has already made a decision about that book without you even consciously realizing it. So you need to be able to convey the correct design principles or the correct information effectively to the subconscious first. Now, here's the important part. If you are not conscious of the design principles that you should be looking for that affect your subconscious, then great. You don't know anything. You're just basically making a book cover and you're like, hey, hopefully this works. Hopefully this is an effective book cover. Because for it to be in your subconscious, it means you're unaware of it. So when you see a book cover and you're like, hey, I like this one, then it's your subconscious saying, hey, yes, there's something about this that looks good, it matches, and then your subconscious is saying, hey, this is probably a quality book. Buy it. Now, even when I give you a really shit book cover, again, your subconscious is going to say, hey, there's something shit about this book cover. There's something off about this. There's something wrong about this. Now, you can't really put it into words because it's design. You can't put it into words until you're conscious of what's wrong, until you gather the information and you're conscious of what you should be looking at. Let me show you what I mean. Look at this. I'm showing you a bunch of words on screen. Okay. I want you to select a word that starts with the letter D. Okay, now once you've selected your word, just find anyone you want, find the letter D. It has to start with D. I want you to close your eyes as soon as you find it. Yep. Close your eyes. Don't worry. No one's looking at you. It's just me and you in this video. So close your eyes. Great. Now that your eyes are closed, can you remember the word that you picked? Awesome. Don't tell me the word. You can just think about it. Now, tell me one word that you saw that started with the letter C. Without opening your eyes, just keep your eyes closed. Tell me what word you remember that started with the letter C. You probably can't remember a word, right? Why? Because you weren't consciously looking for it. You weren't consciously looking for a word that starts with the letter C. You were consciously looking for a word that starts with the letter D. But guess what? When you close your eyes and you weren't conscious of any of the words, well, you don't know what you're looking for. But if I told you, hey, tell me something that starts with D, you can easily tell me the word because you were consciously looking for it. So when I give you a new book cover, if you're not conscious of all the elements, then you're not conscious of what to look for, what makes a good book cover, what makes a bad book cover. And if you're not conscious of the design principles that needs to be applied to your book cover, then you're basically sacrificing or you're just playing around with one of the most important parts of your book, which is your book cover. So if you don't have any design skills, then you're really limiting your business. You are the reason that your business isn't growing because your book covers aren't getting better, because your design comprehension isn't expanding. Your skills aren't getting better. Now, just until I take another sip of this coffee, check out these two book covers and pick which one you prefer. Do you prefer the left or the right one? Which book cover do you want? Awesome. Now, why did you pick that one? There was just something, it just looks better, right? It's like your brain feels good when it sees it. It's like you just completed a puzzle piece and you put the last piece. It feels satisfying to look at that book cover because there's so many design principles in it. Now, the other one, it looks fucking dog shit. Absolute dog shit. Now, again, if you're conscious of all the design principles that I talk about in the program, or you can still go on YouTube. You don't have to go in my program to learn anything from me. Go through my YouTube channel. You're going to find some valuable videos, especially on design. Click on this eye thing. In this video, I just talk about colors. That's it. Click on that video, go watch that video about colors, and you're going to see how much there is to learn about colors. And this is only one of the design principles that I share. I share 12 of them. Now, if you put all 12 of these together, great. You have the perfect book cover, the most effective book cover. Let me put my coffee back. Now, one of the reasons it's very important to understand colors is because colors is what is going to first resonate with the customer. So, in the most simple way possible, if I am selling a book for men, okay, and let's say it's what do men do? Let's say they go out for camping. Great. I'm selling a camping book for men. Am I going to make a pink book cover? Probably not, right? Why am I not going to make my book cover pink? Because pink is probably not going to resonate with men that go camping. Men that go camping, I don't think their favorite color is pink. Or I don't think they see pink and they're like, hey, that's a nice color, that's an attractive color. Yeah, I want a pink book in my camping. I'm not saying it's a bad color. I'm just saying, if I had to bet on it, I'm betting that they're not really going to resonate with pink. When it comes to camping, they might resonate more with earthly colors. So if we're doing a camping book, because camping is more of an earthly kind of activity, we might want to put some greens or some dark greens or some browns. These are like camping colors. Now, again, you can experiment. You can put some orange if you want. But what are the chances that pink is going to be a good color that's going to resonate with your camping audience? Probably not the best color. Now, obviously, if you watch the entire video where I talk about colors, the thing that just popped up, then you'll be able to understand how to pick the correct colors for your book cover. Because if you pick the correct colors, you're going to attract the correct audience, and they're going to click on your book and then buy your book, and then everything is good, right? Second thing, hierarchy. This is one of the things that I preach about all the time. What is hierarchy? Hierarchy is super simple. We see the big thing first, and then we see the small thing, and then we see the smaller thing. We look at things based on their size. So we start from the biggest one and go down until the smallest one. Now, because we know this, we can convey the correct information in the correct order using hierarchy on our book cover. So if I want them to see my title first, because that's a very important keyword, let's say we're making a baking book for kids, then if the biggest word is baking, great. So let's say this is our book cover. Well, baking is the biggest word on our cover. Why? Because we want people to see, hey, you search baking book for kids. Look at this. This is a baking book. So we want to instantly tell them bake it. Hey, you search baking. This is it. Bake it. It says the word bacon there. It says the word bacon there. So they can immediately see, okay, this is the book that I'm looking for. Now, second thing, they're going to see cookbook for kids. So for kids is going to be a target audience. So they know, hey, I'm looking for a baking book for adults. This is not the one that I want. So I'm not going to click on it. Now, when you're running Amazon ads, if they don't click on it because it's not for them, great. You don't have to pay for a click. That's not going to bring you a sale. So the clearer you are on your cover about what your book is, who your target audience is, so in this case for kids, then people that are searching for kids will click on your book, have a higher chance of buying it. People that are searching for adults are probably not going to click on your book because they have a lower chance of buying it. It's not what they're looking for. They're looking for a baking book for adults. I hope that makes sense. And by implementing hierarchy correctly, then you can guide your viewers' eyes through your design and convey the correct information in the correct order. Now, obviously, with every single design principle, it's all about attracting attention, because attracting attention, that's what's going to convert that attention into a click. So you want attention first, and once you receive the attention on your book, then they're going to click. They're never going to click on your book if they're not attracted to your book. They're never going to click on your book if they don't even notice your book. So the first thing is we need to draw attention to our book. Once we draw attention to our book, then we can convert it into a click. Now, I'm going to give you one more thing. Obviously, I know I'm not going too deep into it. It's going to take me so long to go into in-depth detail of every single one of these. This is why I made my program. But one of the third thing is that I want to talk about is your main image, because this is one of the things that, wow, I see so many authors get this wrong. I don't know why. I have no idea why, but I see so many authors, they come to me, and publishers, not just authors, but publishers as well. They come to me and then they have a decent book cover, but their main image is absolutely terrible. Terrible main image. And the thing is, your main image is so valuable. It's usually, when it comes to hierarchy, usually your main image is the biggest thing on the cover. So it's the first thing people see. If your main image isn't good, then you're pushing people away. As soon as they see your book, they're like, yeah, I don't even know what this book is. So, main image. This is one of the biggest mistakes I see. Most of the times, your main image isn't even clear. So, for example, I had one client, he was publishing a finance book for kids. Guess what his main image was? Do you think there was money on his main image? I don't think there was. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember it was a book cover, and it was this one woman sitting, a little kid, sitting on a desk, and she was just like that with her hands like that, and she was just smiling. That's it. And it was like finance for kids. And I'm like, well, great. I mean, the book cover doesn't look bad, but why the fuck is there just a random kid just sitting there smiling? What does that have to do with kids making money? Absolutely nothing. She's just sitting there smiling. Is she a kid? Sure, she's a kid. Well done. You managed to put a kid on your book cover and it's a book for kids. Well done. But if someone looks at the main image, if I only show you the main image, are you going to realize, hey, this is probably a finance book for kids? Probably not, because it's just a random kid sitting on a desk smiling. Now, check this out. Let's say I had to make a book cover for a finance book for kids. Well, great. When it comes to the main image, the one thing I'm thinking about is, how can I best convey exactly what my book is about using the main image? So, if I'm selling a book, finance book for kids, then great. One thing I might do, I might have a kid, or just pay someone to do an illustration of a kid driving a Ferrari, okay, with money raining down, and then maybe he's throwing gold coins, and then maybe in the background there's like a stock arrow or something, or some candles or something. So then when someone sees it, it's like, okay, well, first of all, the Ferrari might just be funny for me. I don't know. I think it's kind of funny if I see a little teenager in a Ferrari or a kid in a Ferrari. I think that'll be funny. But if someone looks at it and sees, well, here's a kid in a Ferrari and there's a bunch of money and there's stock candles in the back and he's throwing gold coins out of his convertible Ferrari, then I'm assuming that it's a finance book for kids, because all I see is a kid and money and finance things. I see a bright red Ferrari, I see money falling down, I see stock candles in the background. This seems more like a finance book for kids. Or even if I just have a kid throwing money, if it's just a random kid and they're throwing up their hands and they're just throwing money all over the place, that is probably a better main image than just a kid sitting on a desk smiling. Because it's not visually telling someone, hey, this is what my book is about. So, your main image, really focus on your main image. It is honestly super important to get this, make sure your main image is clear. You want to make sure as soon as someone looks at your main image, even if they don't read your title or subtitle or anything else, just by looking at your main image, people must be able to consciously tell what the book is about. Now, afterwards, when you pull all the design principles, then you'll be able to make an effective cover. So you picked an effective image, and then you put all the design principles that we talked about in the program, or you can just scroll through the channel, try and learn some from the channel, and then implement it in your book cover, and you're going to have a very, very good book cover. Now, let's talk about the second step. The second step is actually very, very simple. I'm not going to go too deep into it because it doesn't need to be super deep. It's copywriting. Copywriting is essential. Why? Because this conveys the value of your book. I'm not going to write that, but it conveys the value of your book. Now, what does conveys mean? Conveys means you transfer information. Okay, I don't know if that's exactly what it means, but that's my definition of it. You transfer information. So, and value obviously means value. It's something really good. It's value. You're going to get more out of it than you're going to give. That's basically what value really is. You're getting more out of it than you give. Now, this is what we need to give to the customer. So we need to convey the value of our book to our customer. And how do we do that? Using copywriting. And all copywriting is super simple. It's the words that you use and how you use those words. Now, if you do this effectively, then you can convey value. You can convey the value of your book to your customer. Let me explain. Let's say we have two lollipops. Okay, this lollipop here is $1. This one here is $1, and they're both strawberry flavor. There's no difference between them. However, this lollipop, when you're on the website and you're trying to buy this lollipop, it says, not just, but it says tastes good. Okay, awesome. Would you buy this lollipop if it just tastes good? you might buy it. It's only $1. Yeah, you're online, buy the lollipop, it tastes good. Now, what if we compare it to this lollipop? And instead of tastes good, it says, this tastes amazing. Great. Which one of these two lollipops do you want to buy? Same price, same flavor. This one tastes good. This one tastes amazing. You probably want to buy this one, right? Why? Because I just used the word amazing. Amazing is a more powerful word than good. Correct? Correct. Amazing is like, it's bigger, it's better. So, just by using the word amazing, I conveyed more value for the lollipop. So the lollipop, this lollipop is more valuable. Even though it's not more valuable in terms of price, I made it more valuable in your mind because of the words I used. Now, it's important to understand copywriting because we need this for our description and we need this for our A+ content. Now, when the clients came to me and their books weren't doing all that good, first, we fixed all the design elements because that's the biggest thing. Again, design for their book cover, but also their A+ content. But again, if we do the book cover, we can just use those same designs, elements that we put on the book cover, extract it, put it in A+ content. But when it comes to copywriting, since we did the design effectively, people see it, they subconsciously assume the book is good, so then they click on the book and then they want to read more. This is when copywriting comes in. Because as soon as they click on the book, we already did the hard work, we did a good book cover, they clicked on our book, now they're on our listing reading our description and A+ content. So they clicked on our book because we had obviously a good book cover, and now they're reading our description and A+ content to figure out if our book is even worth it. But not only just worth it, remember before we said they click around 4 to 6 different books. Great. They're comparing our book to the competitors. So if they're comparing our book to the competitors, what do we want to do? We want to make sure that we convey that the value of our book is higher than our competitors. And we can only do that with effective copywriting. If you don't have effective copywriting, you're basically telling customers, hey, the other books are better than mine. Now, if you go to a Mercedes dealership and the guy comes in and you're like, hey, I want to buy an E-Class. And he's like, hey, you know what? The E-Classes are really bad. We've had customers come bring in the E-Classes all the time because mechanical problems and blah, blah, blah. It's much better to get an S-Class or a C-Class. What would you do? Would you still buy the E-Class? Probably not, because you're thinking, okay, well, there's negative things with the E-Class. Let me get the S-Class or the C-Class. Now, that's probably not the best example because you might want the E-Class for other reasons, not just reliability reasons. However, I hope you get my point. You want to convey the value of your book, and you want to convey that your book is the most valuable. And again, we can use words to do this. Now, if I was selling this lollipop, just to give you an example, so if I'm doing my description or A+ content, and I was just selling a lollipop on Amazon instead of a book, I might not say, oh, this lollipop is amazing, because it doesn't really sound convincing. But another way of doing copywriting is to try to create emotion, because people buy with emotions. So, in order for you to create emotion, you want to describe something or paint a picture in someone's head of the experience they're going to have, or the transformation they're going to have once they read your book, or in our case, once they try our lollipop. So if I'm like, hey, this lollipop just tastes good, but then this lollipop, if you try this lollipop, it feels like strawberries are bursting in your mouth. You get a burst of flavor. Now, this sounds way better than this. Hey, this one just tastes good. This one, it was like 100 strawberries bursting inside your mouth. See, I'm painting a picture in your head about how good this is going to taste. So now you automatically want this because of copywriting. So copywriting is super, super effective. Now, here's 3 things to consider when it comes to copywriting. Thing number 1, the words that you use are extremely important. So words like adjectives and things like that. If you're going to make a sentence, try to add a word that amplifies that sentence. So amazing might be a word, for example, because this one, you don't have to add it to something, but it just amplifies the sentence. Let me give you an example. So one of the books that I have here, this one here, this is called Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. Read it like twice. It's a very, very good book. Now, this is all about your ego and how your ego is keeping you from achieving what you want to achieve. So if I was to use copywriting to sell that book, one thing I could say is, in this book, you're going to learn how to not listen to your ego. Great. That's a normal sentence. In this book, you're going to learn how to not listen to your ego. That's actually a very boring sentence. Okay, if you're new and you don't understand copywriting, you might say, hey, that sounds pretty good. I mean, I'm going to show you what you're going to learn. But we want to really think about the words, specific words we're using. So instead of saying something like, hey, this book is going to show you how to get over your ego, or something like that, how to not listen to your ego, what about if we use the word destroy? Now, isn't destroy a much more powerful word? This book will show you how to destroy your ego. That's a way more powerful word. So words are extremely important when conveying value. Second thing, your sentence structures. This is extremely important. I'm only going to give you one of my tips here because I'm keeping the rest. I'm sorry. I'm not going to give you all my secrets. But here's one thing. Always, always, always end on a positive. Always end on a positive. Well, maybe not always, but most of the times end on a positive. So if I'm going to put a sentence, I'm going to say, hey, here's the negative, and then here's the positive. Or I'm going to say, here's a feature of my book, and then here's the positive thing. So in chapter 3, you will discover how to destroy your ego so you can live a fulfilled life. So you can live the true version of yourself. So you can regain your confidence back. All of those are positive things. They're benefits, they're positives. Here's what this book is going to do for you. They're always positives. Now, if I say the same thing, but with a negative, it doesn't really sound as good. You're going to learn how to destroy in chapter 2, we're going to show you how to destroy your ego so you don't have to sit crying in your room again. That's almost like a negative positive. I hope that makes sense. So I don't want to paint the picture of them crying in their room. Or if I'm selling a book on how to attract women for men, in this book, you're going to learn how to attract women so you can feel more confident. That's a positive. I'm going to show you how to attract women so you don't have to sleep alone at night. That's a negative. They're thinking about sleeping alone at night. The other one, they're thinking about them being confident. I hope this makes sense. And then finally, super simple, emotions. Try to use emotional language. So the way I said that other sentence, so you don't have to sleep by yourself at night, that's emotion. That stirs an emotion. Obviously, I did it on a negative. That's not what we want to do. But we want to create emotions using our copywriting because people buy with emotions. So same example as before. We could say something like, in chapter 3, I'm going to show you the 5 best text messages to send to women that will make you irresistible to them. Now, just the word irresistible creates a certain emotion of confidence. Irresistible. If you're irresistible to someone, that's a way more powerful word. That's a more emotional word than, hey, women might actually like you. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, we spent way too much time on copywriting, but let's go on the final one. The final one is extremely important, and there's a reason I left it last. Okay, so the final one is actually hiring. Now, this might not apply to you if you're brand new, but it will apply to you eventually if you're going to continue publishing, and it will apply to you right now if you're doing some kind of money on KDP. Now, when it comes to hiring, I'm going to show you one thing that I see most of the publishers that come to me make this mistake. Now, here's the mistake. They're going to go and then let's say they're like, okay, we need to hire a writer, a ghostwriter. I need to go out and hire a ghostwriter for my short stories book for kids. Great. I'm going to go on Fiverr or Upwork or whatever freelance website I'm going to go. I'm going to find a bunch of people. I'm going to message all of them, and then I'm going to pick the one that's right for me based on our conversation, and I'm going to give them money to start my project, right? So, hey, go do a 30,000 word project for me. Great, great. This is how most new publishers operate. Now, this is not the best way to actually find people to hire. Now, it doesn't matter if you're hiring your ghostwriter or a designer for your book cover or a designer for your A+ content or a formatter. Actually, the format is actually way more simple. But formatting aside, all the rest, this is probably not the best hiring process to have. So I wouldn't go on a freelance website, look for a bunch of people, message them, and then just pick one from there and hire them. In fact, this is actually extremely risky and probably not the best decision. Here's what I do and what my clients have been finding success with when it comes to hiring. Instead of going on and then messaging a bunch of people and then hiring one person, you go on the website, you message a bunch of people, and then you hire 5 people. This is what I like to do as well. Now, you're thinking, but Barry, why would I hire 5 people to write 30,000 words? That doesn't make any sense. I'm just going to end up losing a bunch of money. Well, you're not going to hire them to create 30,000 words. What you're going to do is you're going to get a sample from each one of these people. Now, it can be 2 people, it can be 3 people, it can be 5 people. What you want to do here is get a small sample of real work that you paid for and then you can see their real work in real time, because you don't know if they're scamming you. You don't know if they're putting fake images or other people's work online or in their portfolios for you to see. So you can just get a sample from each person. And then once you receive the sample from all of them, you're going to have 5 samples to pick from. And guess which one you're going to pick? The best one. And let's say this guy's the best one. Great. Now you know this is the guy that you want to hire. Now, when it comes to hiring this guy, again, I'm not going to go and say, hey, 30,000 words, go do my entire book with 30,000 words. That's not what I want to do. What I do want to do is actually go slowly. So I might tell him, hey, I'm going to hire you. We're going to do milestones. What's milestones? This means you don't pay the full amount in one go. You pay parts. So as your book is being written, you're paying for it. So I'm going to go and tell them, hey, I'm going to pay you for every 5,000 words. So yes, I got the sample. Sample looks good. Out of the 5 people, I picked John. Now John is coming to me, and then I'm saying, hey, John, looks good. I really want to work with you. Let's continue working together. Now, based on your sample, looks really good. Here's some tweaks that I want, blah, blah, blah. But go ahead, start the first chapter. Here's what you need for the first chapter. As soon as you finish the first 5,000 words, send it over. I'll pay you the milestone for those 5,000 words. Again, you get to review everything. So if you just pay someone 30,000 words, pay someone to write 30,000 words for you, great. Now you have to sit there and review an entire book. But if you're doing 5,000 words at a time, you can review everything at parts. And also, if you do milestones, it actually incentivizes the writer to write more and more quality, because they're getting paid small amounts each time. It's like you're drip feeding them. Instead of just giving them everything and be like, okay, spend the next month and a half writing this book. So I like to do milestones. I give them small amounts of money for small chunks of the entire project until eventually I have the entire project at the end. And then great, I just pay the last milestone and then it's all mine. So yeah, that's basically how I hire. I also do this with my book covers. So I'm going to go and message a bunch of people. Every one of these circles is a bunch of people. These are designers. I'm going to go and message them. I'm going to run a contest. That's what I do. And then from this contest, everyone's going to submit their book covers. And what I do is I pick 5 of them. I think it's 5. But let's say I pick 5 of them, these guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These guys are going to make a new book cover. Not a new book cover, but try to improve the one that they already did. And then from these 5, I'm going to select one. Let's say this one. And from this one, I'm going to say, hey, make these small tweaks. I think this is good, but just make these tiny little tweaks. And then this person gets my money. Only this person. Even though this person worked and this person worked and this person worked and this person actually worked twice as hard because they had to update the cover. Hopefully they compete to get the final amount. But no, only the designer that you pick gets the money. Everyone else gets nothing. However, using this way to hire is so much more effective, because imagine you went to an Apple store. Well, not an Apple store, just a fruit store. They said a bunch of fruits. If I go in and I'm looking for a red apple and I go there and there's one red apple, then I don't even know if I'm getting the best red apple. But if I go there and there's 30 of them, then great. I get to grab it and pick it and look at it and see which one's shinier, which one's better, which one's not rotten, which one's good to eat. And then out of those 30, I have a selection to pick from and I get to pick the best one. Now, if I get to pick the best one, does that mean that I have a higher quality book or a lower quality book? Obviously, a higher quality book. So now, because we have a high quality book because of our hiring, and then we have good design because we follow the design principles, and then we have good copywriting, now we're going to show up on Amazon, we're going to get the click because of our book cover. Then when we get the click, because we convey the value so effectively, they're going to buy the product. And then when the product is received and it's at their door and they're going to read it, because of how good our hiring is, we're going to have a good product. And because of how happy the customer is with the product, they're going to leave a review, and then that's just going to push you up the rankings. You're going to get higher conversion rates, and everything just kind of snowballs. Now, obviously, there's other things like, do your SEO and keyword research and make sure you come up with a title and a bunch of different elements that we talked about. However, these 3 are the core elements that you need in order to be really successful. These are the ones that you need to focus on the most. Keyword research is easy. It's really it's not hard at all. Keyword research is super easy. Amazon ads, super easy. Everyone just overcomplicates it. It's not that complicated. But this is the real value. This is the real stuff that moves your business forward. Anyway, I hope you found this video valuable. If you want to work with me or you want to learn directly from me, just click the link in the description. If you don't want to work with me, that's completely fine. If you just want to figure it out by yourself using YouTube, then great. Click on this video right here. You're going to find it super, super valuable. And yeah, go out there and make a bunch of money on KDP.